Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSi DFS. Looking at this monster 12-game slate here as we kind of wrap up the season. We only have, 8, 9 more days left for, everybody's season ends next Sunday. Two things I wanted to highlight here before we get started. We're not sure the Detroit starting pitcher at this point in time, and we also don't know the Dodgers starting pitcher at this point in time. This is just coming straight from the MLB website. And I just kind of wanted to highlight the standings here as well, just kind of show you where the playoff implications are with teams going on the slate here tonight, which pretty much everybody is on the board. But AL wildcard race really tight amongst with all these AL Central teams, so definitely going to be looking towards those offenses. Seattle, Boston also right in it. Tampa Bay technically in it, but I feel like they're kind of out at this point in time. And then on the NL side of things, it's really Braves, Mets, Diamondbacks, and Padres. I feel like that's just kind of like your core four. Everybody else, I think, is either locked in or pretty much out at this point in time. So still a week plus to go, but just something to think about as we move forward here, especially when we're talking about the starting pitchers. Two starting pitchers on this board that I think might have some pitch count implications. First one's going to be Garrett Crochet. No surprise there. He's probably only going to be going like 50, 55 pitches. He really only goes like 4 innings at this point in time. Really, he was still kind of viable when he was facing off against, teams like Oakland, who, are going to strike out, and he was capable of getting that 7 strikeout game in those 4 innings. But against a low strikeout team of San Diego, really just don't have much interest in him here today. DeGrom's the other guy who might have a little bit of pitch limitations towards him. I would guess maybe 70 to 80 pitches. He went 61 in his first start back. So like I said, maybe 70, 75 pitches, probably going to be my guesstimate for him here tonight. So we got the sheet. We'll pull it up here. And yeah, let's just kind of dive right in. So up in the high salary tier, you got Cole and Musgrove. I think those two are really separating themselves, before a big gap before you drop down to guys like Burns, Gallen, and Kirby. Musgrove and Cole, I think you could argue that one is over the other, or the other is over the other. It's kind of like a 1A, 1B, which is kind of why I highlighted it that way, with the slash, because I don't know, you got Musgrove facing off against the White Sox and their atrocious offense, so certainly he's going to be in play. But you also have Garrett Cole in a favorable matchup as well, facing off in a nice pitcher's park in Oakland. And while Garrett Cole got rocked in his last start, before that, he was dominant. He's starting to look like Garrett Cole once was when he was priced, 10.5K. And now we're getting him at 9K for a nice matchup here. Really do like that. So Garrett Cole, Musgrove, get at least one of them probably in your cash builds here tonight. I think both of them are going to be quite popular. After that, like I said, it's a big drop-off between Burns, Gallen, and Kirby. I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Burns, but it's pretty mushy. Pretty mushy overall. None of them have great matchups. Detroit, they are on fire. They're 8-2 in their past 10. The offense is clicking, and they're pushing for that playoff spot. Baltimore, on the other side, their offense has been anemic. They just can't seem to get anything going offensively. So that certainly is going to be hindering Burns. There's a possibility that Burns goes out, pitches 6 innings, allows 1 or 2 earned runs, and still can't get the win because the offense, the Baltimore offense, has just been so woeful as of late. So I still would rank them Burns, Gallen, Kirby in that order, but definitely Musgrove and Cole leading the charge. Heading over to this mid-tier, Morton all the way down to Festa. Wroblewski, I don't know if it's going to be him for the Dodgers. Who knows? I would not have any interest in him if he is indeed the starter here at 8.4K. I think the two guys I'm going to have most interest in would be DeGrom and Morton. Morton's got a very favorable matchup against Miami, but I feel like I always have the preview videos with Charlie Morton in a very favorable matchup where it's just kind of yeah, he's probably a good spot to play here, but man, I just don't like playing Charlie Morton, especially if he's going to see a lot of ownership. I never want to be overweight on Morton. It's just just kind of where things shake out. But DeGrom, super high strikeout matchup facing off against Seattle. 8.1K. I know he didn't get a whole heap ton of strikeouts in his first start out back from injury, but this is Seattle. Man, I mean, like, they make any pitcher look incredible. So he's going to be my favorite even on a pitch count of only like maybe 75 to 80 pitches, more in slightly behind him. Peterson, I think, is really interesting from like a GPP, like 150 max standpoint. This guy's not getting enough credit here this season at all. He's got an ERA of 2.86. He's 9-2 on the season. You can see he's only allowed more than 2 earned runs twice since June 12th. Like, this is the beginning of summer. I mean, we already got the leaves changing. Like, we're wrapping up the season. He almost went the entire back half of the season with allowing an ERA of sub 2. Like, it's been absurd what he's been able to do. But he is facing off against Philadelphia, so that certainly is a, knock towards him, which is going to throw me over into the 150 max category here for Peterson. Sanchez, kind of the same deal. He's facing on the other side, facing off against the Mets, and then Waka. And then I think it's kind of like a bigger gap, and then Festa kind of trailing things off there. Going into the cheap tier, not many pitchers that I really was liking. Like, I got a lot of pitchers in the fade no interest category. Ray Anderson, Crochet, just because he's on a pitch count and a low strikeout matchup. But I'm not playing Freeland, Blackkin, Belozo, all in very tough offensive matchups. Excuse me. So Gibson and Verlander kind of really leading the charge. And I would say there's a gap, and then Lively and Fitz. Verlander, I could listen to an argument of putting him over Gibson. I personally have Gibson over Verlander. Verlander just hasn't looked Verlander as of late. He's got a nice matchup facing off against the Angels, but it certainly is alarming to me that just getting to 4 strikeouts is becoming extremely difficult for him. He's also playing that back-to-back matchup in terms of, like, his last start was against this same Angels team, and I always kind of prefer the offense in those kinds of matchups. So he was only able to muster up 2 strikeouts and 11 DK points against them last time. Maybe he gets a similar performance here, but it certainly is concerning the strikeout rates that he has been having. But at the same time, you got Gibson, who, he's been looking better, but he's in a tougher matchup against a Cleveland team that just doesn't really strike out at all. So it's kind of, I could listen to one over the other, and honestly, they're both there. They're both there. Who do I have after that? Lively, Fitz. Lively just doesn't get a whole bunch of strikeouts. Fitz, honestly, is more over into the fade no interest category. Like, he's just not going to be in any of my lines here tonight. I'm just not playing him. So that's kind of where the pitching shakes out. Let's head over towards the bats, and you can quickly see, like, the top bats are the expensive bats. Dodgers, Ohtani. We don't even have to talk about Ohtani. Like, I mentioned it in the Discord as it was going on, arguably the best single game hitting performance in the history of baseball yesterday. It was absolutely absurd. Dodgers put up 20 runs. Now you might be thinking, hey, Freeman Betts, they must have done really awesome. No, I think they went like 1 for 9, or 1 for 7 because they got benched. It was bad. Okay, so here we go. I'm not salty at all. Dodgers going to be number 1. Braves, Houston, Yankees, Baltimore. I put here. I know. I've mentioned how, like, their offense has just been absolutely atrocious. It's been anemic, but they're going to be facing like a Detroit bullpen game. Maybe I have a little bit of interest in them, but at the same time, a Detroit bullpen game essentially no hit them. Was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? So a little bit of hesitation there with them, but they do have a very high implied run total. So Vegas seems to be thinking that they're in a really nice spot. They're not a top 5 implied run total. I think teams like Kansas City, Minnesota, Boston all are over them. But still, I think they got to be at least in your looking glass when you're building here tonight. You guys know all the best players from these teams, so I don't have to go too much in depth into that. Boston and San Diego, really do like them in terms of a GPP standpoint. San Diego facing off against Crochet. If they can get by Crochet, they're going to be teeing off on the White Sox bullpen. So just Sorry, I got distracted by a text there. San Diego, really do like them. Again, they're kind of in the thick of all this, like just kind of clinging on to that playoff position. So they're going to be ready to go there. Boston, for GPP, it's going to be the lefties facing off against Festa. And just bring some nice value and some cheapness to the lineup that we can all agree upon. I mean, you got Abreu and Casas, both at sub 4K. Devers a little bit more expensive, but Devers only 5.4. We got so used to him being at 6K, but it's kind of trailed down as the season has gone on here. And then into the cheap side, I kind of did a Musgrove Cole kind of thing, like Kansas City, Minnesota, Kansas City. I really couldn't decide which one I wanted to put there. Both of them have very, very implied run totals. And when you're talking like a point per dollar standpoint, certainly, one of the better value teams on the board. So both of these teams combined, you can see only 2 players priced over 5.1K, and only 6-7 guys from both teams combined priced over 4K. And these are teams that have some of the highest implied run totals on the board here tonight. So we're going to have interest in both of these lineups. Kansas City, you want the lefties. Obviously, Pasquantino's out. He broke his hand and everything. But Salvador Perez, even as a righty, like he's been mashing the ball as of late. He's been looking really solid, hitting 368 over his past 10 games. Only 2 home runs, no other extra base hits. He's not going to be getting a stolen base. So the upside, I guess, is a little bit capped with him, with how he's been seeing the ball. But it's baseball. And any day can break a slump or whatever you want to call it. So he's not even in a slump. He's doing fine. He's just not, raking as we would hope him to be. But you got guys like Massey and Melendez who are very affordable, and you can jam into your lineups. And then on the Minnesota side of things, it's going to be your typical cheap lefties that we're going to have interest in. Wallner, absolutely at 4.1K, going to have interest in him. Then you got Larnack at 3.1. Who's the other lefty that we always talk about? Oh, Julian from Minnesota. Nice value play there as well. So hopefully this is kind of able to guide you in the right direction. Leverage stacks are just going to be the guys who I expect to be the highest owned pitchers. Like I expect DeGrom to see quite a bit of ownership. I think Burns potentially could see some ownership. Musgrove, Cole, obviously, with that. So hopefully this is able to guide you in the right direction. Thank you all for watching. Really do appreciate it. We're going to have another preview video out for you tomorrow on Saturday, recapping that slate. So good luck in your contest as always. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.